Hi, I want to talk about Myokonin, and it's going to be difficult to talk, but you might get it just intuitively. They are just the basic people in Japan, and group of people who are in Shin Buddhism, and they are at the lowest level. I mean, it's not to say that they're stupid, but some of them may not be able to read and write in those days. But they are really smart and compassionate. If Zen is more in the direction of the wisdom, Myokonin is in the direction of compassion. And I found through Daisetsu, and there are videos in Japanese, not many people watch it or understand it. Maybe because of the westernization of Japan and people are busy, all the stuff going on. And also, maybe I can say that that's the reason I want to talk about them. Because just a while ago, I had this Google commenting in the email or something about do this or verify this. And since I have old computer and the newer one, an iPhone, somehow they're not communicating well. And there's it's like I'm in the loop that I cannot get out. So I asked Gemini, but I couldn't go much forward, and it's too complex to check all of them. That's pointing me to think about Myokonin. I posted a video about Osono, who is the woman, but they're men and women, and Saichi is one of the more famous ones. Let me talk about him. If there's a Satori and enlightenment in Zen, in case of Shin Buddhism, it's the Shinjin Getsujo, the belief in Amida's savior is the orientation. And because Amida is so compassionate, that's the Buddha in the sutra they found. And Amida is such that he or she would take everyone, even the sinners, for them to find the peace. So especially when people are concerned about dying, they wanted the religion, and in Japan, Shin Buddhism is one of the major ones, probably the largest number of people who may believe in. Even though in today's age, religion is drifting away and people are busy. And maybe that's the reason why I'm so attracted to the basic way of people's living. Like a smiling and compassionate and sharing. So the group of people who are in Shin Buddhism may have like I may call it users group. They have a gathering of people, and it's called the Doko-sama. Doko, do is same, and ko is go, walk. So going into the direction of Amida's belief of Amida to save them. And they get together and they appreciate that even if they are not as competent intellectually or anything, and they may not have much of a skill, but they're human being with a great capacity to help each other and communicate each other and believe in this teaching. So Myokonin are like Zen masters in the Shin sect, but they are not the masters at hierarchy, high level, but they are the basic level. That is more appealing to me because it's real, because they're not bullshit and they're straightforward. So, also know I gave an example, and this guy, Saichi, is also one of the ones that I like, and because he wrote many poem-like thing, uttering. Every day he did the work on the making the sandals on wood, and there's a carving or little thing that comes out of the process. I forgot the name of the machine there. Slicing the peeling off the wooden surface, and he write down some ideas. And at night before he goes to sleep, he put these words into the little book. And it turned out to be, I think they have found 7,000 of those poems out there. And when you read it, it's something. So even in Japan, their existence may not be as well known, especially outside of Shin Buddhism. But because of their not pushing outward, but just doing things, and just writing or something. And this Saichi, one of the story is that someone wanted to paint his picture. And he didn't want to bother, but he then told him, if you're going to paint my picture, put the horn, the sticking out of the head. And the reason is that he get upset every now and then. So he's not to be seen as a master of anything. And that is, to me, is the very humble attitude. Not to say, I am the master, or I have satori, or enlightened or something. They just appreciate Amida Buddha. And because of their attitude being so much into appreciating the Amida's compassion that they are saved. So they're happy about it, but they're human being. So this home thing is one example. And in his notebook, writing the poem, he may say something like, there's one interesting one. This is about, in my house there are two devils, meaning him and his wife. Maybe he had some fight or something. So he's a very honest person. Talk straightforward, put it onto this notebook that the children may write, and then he bring to there's a temple and there's a priest, so he shows that, but don't show to anyone. So that was like him. But he's in the remote part of Japan, and that there's even the statue of him with this horn that some, many people may visit there. And there are other Myokonin. And perhaps about 100 years ago or so, there was a guy, maybe I'll talk about this more in detail some other videos, but this guy had the fear of death or something that he couldn't resolve in himself. So early in his age, he just ran out of the house to look for the temple, the person, and by talking to various people, he found those Myokonins, various part of Japan. So he summarized, I think, 150 or whatever people who are considered Myokonin. Myo is, it can be interpreted as strange, but the myo means wondrous, amazing, myo. Ko is like, and Myokonin, nin is man. So the person who likes a little interesting taste of life. And visiting those and capturing the stories and so forth. And that tradition continues. Even now, there are people, they don't publicize much, but there are historical background and those living. So let's see. I mentioned about the Sai Chi and the Myokonin as a background, and their indication, orientation toward compassion and love. And I think that is truly is the treasure. I mentioned about shining the corner of the world is what we find each of us, want to do. So they have those different areas. In Osono's case, for 100 years, there's the celebration of meeting and talking about Osono, or in Sai Chi and other places, other Myokonins sharing those stories. So just the background, and perhaps because they are not as astute or into the logic to argue, they hesitate, plus because of the structural reasons that they are not in a high-powered position, they just go inward and helping compassionate sense that they have. From that is Myokonin admired by others, or people come join and all that stories. So that's a story. I wish there's a way to appreciate, promote ideas and appreciate that, so that we are not so much into the mind and brain, but more from the heart, and even you cannot talk and behave a little bit more like an idiot. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But they are simple-minded, and they go through Amida Buddha. It's simple. The logic is very simple, whether you believe it or not. And when you believe this Amida Buddha, it's the same as this samadhi. There's no self, no mind, but absorbing everything of those teaching of Shin Buddhism, originated from Shinran from years ago, and before that came all the way from India, but shifting and became this form in Japan. So that is a branch of the Buddhism, flowering not the high level intellect, but at the lower level, common people's level, and compassion and doko. Same idea, working together, sharing the stories, helping each other. I think that's wonderful. I met Michio-san, that's one of my friends. I had a business trip to Japan and Osaka. He lived in, maybe he is still there, in Hiroshima. Took a bullet train to come and meet me. And I have some writings, files that is in Japanese. Maybe I'll find something and I can share if you have interest. That he came, and one of the story that I remember, I was so happy to see him and taking time and effort to come down to see me. And he's a basic guy. Just briefly, he was working in the company, but something is not quite right, and he realized he was talking in the bus or the train, speaking a little bit about crazy or talking to himself. And that was the worst time, and out of that he came out following his parents being into the Shin Buddhism and had a temple. So he went to the school and know about it, studied the Bible, and whatever the case is, he had this enlightenment or Satori version in Shin Buddhism. He said something like a light fell on him, or something like that, fell on him. And he's really decent human being, open, kind. And in our conversation, one moment I remember is that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he said, what was the word? Yeah, in Japanese, 何もないんだよね. He said, there's nothing. And we laughed because it's like there's no need to talk about it, because like I mentioned about transparency, because it's not in the mind, it's the feel and the compassion. And if you have that, the life is pretty good. So what I want to say here is that there are those people, still is, and I think there are some articles here and there. It may not get much attention. Japan is busy doing this and that, but there are a certain group of people, the Myokonin in today's world, not so many of them, but they have the gathering to share and trying to make sure that there's a tradition or some understanding of it prevailing. So people have visiting with each other. Actually, I know one person who is the priest in Shin Buddhism, and she posts quite a few posts like I do. Yeah, not many people visit. We talked over the phone, but she never quit, and she just keep on doing. Not many people. This is in Japanese that she does, and she's a priest. So much into Myokonin. So there's not a lineage, but there's a flow, that tradition and understanding following this, coming from the idea of the Amida Buddha in Japan. Maybe in the Christianity you can find Maria or some physical, the person to be similar to Amida Buddha. But today's world and all the stuff that I mentioned about this computer and the little crazy passkey and the new thing, and I have this trouble and I can solve it still. And I can feel that, if I am one of those not much into the computer, I would be out of this. I cannot, because I still have to, play this with this computer and do things. But they would stay out and do whatever they do. So they may be almost out of the typical people living, but they are, in my view, very genuine people without being, what's the word, painted or, get sucked into the intellectual process and all the stuff happening in with the technology and internet and so forth. So that's just a story, and I just wanted to share at least a little bit of the sense that I have, and send me some comment, and I may be encouraged to share more stories to see if I can communicate and make sense of it.